all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have, and I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have, and I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have, and I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. The songs of all my great grandmothers and the dreams of all my great grandfathers, and the way to rise beyond the pain. I'll live, oh, live in me. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am all that I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am all that I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am all that I have been. I am all that I will be. I am all that I am. And the smiles of all the unborn children, and the dreams of a better day to come, and the dance of heaven with the earth. All live, all live in me. In the land of I am all that I have been. I am all that I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am all that I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. Been robbed and disgraced, abused and displaced. Been robbed and disgraced, abused and displaced. Been lied to. Lies can be seen through in the land. You can't fall from grace in this land. You cannot be heard in this land. There's more than enough in this land. You're always at home. You're always at home. All that I will be. I am all I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am.
Yeah. More than I have been, I am. More than I will be. More than I will be. Even in this incarnation, I am. There's no falling from grace in this land. There's no want in this land, this realm. See, we're multidimensional beings. We're multidimensional beings. We have a physical reality, we have a mental reality, we have emotions. And yet, at the center of our essence is that which is eternal and everlasting, and it still remembers itself as the I am that I am. And the I am that you are. Oh, I love that song. Thank you. So nicely done. So nicely done. So, so this thing happened. We had an occurrence last week. I guess we knew it was going to happen. I kept hoping it wouldn't happen, but sure enough, Russia decided to enter into the borders of the Ukraine. And I got an email. In fact, I didn't just get the email. It was sent out to all the practitioners of one practitioner who was really feeling dismayed, a prayer practitioner who was really feeling dismayed and, what? And she came up with a statement that's helping her, but before I get to that statement, I just need to say no matter how spiritual you are, we are human beings, and we are affected by we're affected by what goes on with other human beings. We would have to be very closed not to be affected by what's happening with other human beings. But when our heart opens, that compassion just starts to expand beyond our family and our friends and the people we like. And it expands beyond people we don't even know or recognize. That's normal for an evolving spiritual person having a very human experience. We can be depressed and we can be, this is the way I am. I don't even have a word for it. Really, there's no word. I can't even put words together. I felt the same way when there was a bombing in Florida of a gay bar. Remember that one? I felt the same way when the Jewish community in Seattle, someone went in and just shot people. What? I feel the same way when an unarmed black man is shot. What? That's human and it's normal. But to stay there will not allow, it's like having a wound and having it never heal. Spirituality helps us heal that so that we are capable of making a difference in the world. We're capable of being the place where God shows up in an effective way. In an effective way. This is how she ended her email. She said the only thing that gave her solace was a quote from Richard Rohr, which said, "Everything will be okay in the end. If things aren't okay, then it's not the end yet." Now, I've heard that before, so I think Richard Rohr was probably quoting someone else. But it still makes sense. It's not the end yet. It's not, in the big scheme of things, this is not the end. This is not the end. Even in the little scheme of things, this is not the end yet. This is not the end yet. I want to quote another Richard. This is Richard Bach. "Here's the test as to whether your mission on earth is finished. If you're alive, it isn't." So I guess all of us here are in the club of there's more to do. Hi, I'm Kathianne, and there's more to do. There's more to do. There's more for me to do. There's more for me to do. My mission's not complete. And if I was going to adhere to the philosophy of Pierre geez, what a name. God bless his mama. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Woohoo! Then I'm here to prove love wins. And maybe you want to be on that philosophy and in that work too, that love will eventually win. Now, why love? Why love? Why should I put my attention on love? Because we are a spiritual center helping people live spiritually centered lives, and my interpretation of Jesus, and everybody's just given their own interpretation, and mine is just as valid as somebody else. No matter what their title is, mine is just as valid. Yours is just as valid as mine. So I'll share just my interpretation. My interpretation of Jesus' message, and he was a messenger of God. He was Jewish, and he had a way that worked for him, and his message was not about the law, but about love. And if we loved more, we could pay attention to the law less, because love is the fulfillment of the law of cause and effect. Because when you love, you are effective in causing something beautiful. When you love, you are effective in causing something beautiful. His followers were known, and not as Christians, but followers of the way of love. I mean, he's pretty explicit. God is love, and if you don't know love, you don't know God. So stop saying you do. To know God, not to believe in God, but to know God, you're going to have to know love. You're going to have to know love, and love is going to have its way with you. So our theme for this whole year is radical spirituality. And so for me, I'm really looking at radical love in the month of February. Just radical love, because it's been so sentimental. There's a word for it. You just figure it out. Thank you, whatever that word is. He's like, hearts and flowers and Hallmark cards. And longing for love, no. Love is a power. And I'm really hoping that more of us start allowing that power to flow freely from us. Love is a force for good in the universe. And the people that I admire used love as a force. The people I admire used love as a force. They would say things like, I choose love because hate is too dangerous, Martin Luther King. Nelson Mandela, Gandhi. They were not forceful in the ways that were normal. They were forceful in the ways that were divine. I actually had someone talk to Abigail after first service, and she said, you know what? He said, this church is too yin, too love-oriented. Sign me up. Guilty. Yeah, because there's way too much love in the world, and we got to pull back. So if I want to love radically, I'm looking at how I could love radically. Not just think it, but actually love radically. And the first one, when I was really listening to my heart, I could seek connection, meet people, not stereotypes. Meet a person, not a stereotype. Not who I think these kind of people are. Not what that title goes with, or however we do that. I just have to share this with you because I think it is kind of funny. I put this on my Facebook page, but I thought it was so interesting because I wanted to talk about not meeting a stereotype, and there was certainly a thing about a stereotype here when a Ukrainian woman shared her experiences. She says, being a Ukrainian living in the U.S. for the last 18 years, I have long lost count of how many times I've had various conversations much like this. Them. Good to meet you. What's your nationality? Me. I'm from the Ukraine. Oh, no, I'm from Ukraine. Them. Oh, Russia. Cool. No, I'm Ukrainian. Them. What's the difference? Well, it's the same as being Chinese and Korean or Mexican and Guatemalans. They're different nationalities. Them. And they walk away. Or something like this. Them. You look so Russian. Are you Russian? No, I'm Ukrainian. My ethnicity is Slavic. There's no such thing as looking Russian. Them, sarcastic. Well, excuse me, geez, you sound like you hate Russians. Okay. Or this, them. What part of Russia are you from? I'm from Ukraine. Oh, the Ukraine, that's the eastern part, right? Me, it's Ukrainian, and it's Ukraine without the, and it isn't about Russia. It's about being a separate sovereign country. Them, looking confused and changing the subject. I mean, this is just new in our awareness, so I'm glad that have this conversation, but we do it all the time. We see someone and we think we know about them. We hear what their profession is and we think we know about them. I was guilty of it this morning when I mentioned a musician and I looked over at Stephanie Ann's like, because you're a musician, you must know them. Like, that's like when people know that I'm from Washington. I go to another country and they say, and do you know so-and-so? Yeah, Washington's kind of a big state. We do this stuff, don't we? But when we do the stereotype, we don't get to know the person. We don't get to understand them. I had this, such a personal experience just yesterday. I've been writing at this barn, taking lessons for about 1.5 years. And finally, one of the teachers was talking to me, and they know that I'm going to Russia. Russia. Russia's on my mind. I did go to Russia, but I'm not planning to go there next week. They said, when are you going back to Egypt? And I said, next week. Why do you go? I said, because I'm a minister and I take people to sacred sites. It really opens them up. And it wasn't about Egypt anymore. Obviously, they didn't figure out that I was a minister. I could just see the wheels turning. And who I was just changed before their eyes. I could see them totally recategorizing me because I was a minister. And I felt so tempted to just drop an F-bomb so they could get over it. Like any human, I have a past. But that's what we do to ministers. They shouldn't have a past. Politicians shouldn't have a past. Somebody wants to run for office, they shouldn't have a past. They said something once. 10 years ago, I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. Who are you? Hopefully we're all growing and evolving, and even if you think you know who I am today, I won't be that way in a year because I'm doing my spiritual work. And if you do your spiritual work, you won't be the same either. But we just categorize and we typeset and I know who that person is. That's so wrong. We're not wanting to connect, we're wanting to pigeonhole. So we can figure them out. How many of you were alive long enough to be aware of the Cold War? Yeah. Where the Russians were bad. And people on one side of the city of Berlin were bad, and on the other side of Berlin, they were okay. My first city, God really wanted me to open up. The first place that I traveled after I said, God, I want to see the world, I was offered an opportunity at such a low rate, I had to take it. It was so inexpensive. My first city, the first place I got to travel to was Russia. They had just opened up. And people looked at me like I was koala. You're from the United States. Like I eat Russians for breakfast or something. No, but we do that to people, don't we? Isn't part of the problem in our country is that we categorize people? These people are dangerous, they're different. And then these people are dangerous, they're different. We don't meet person to person. She's a woman, she's a certain way. He's a man, he's a certain way. To paraphrase a country and western song, and music has been showing up in my head, is "This is God's country." Now, I don't like the rest of the song, but I do like that phrase. This is God's country. Ireland and Northern Ireland, this is God's country. Ukraine and Russia, this is God's country. Syria and Iran, this is God's country. Saudi Arabia and the United Kingdom, this is God's country. Where I stand is God's country. And we're waking up to that. We're waking up to it. See, 200 years ago, the same thing was going on, and we wouldn't have been able to talk about it because nobody would have been aware that this was not okay. Next, seek to understand. After you seek to connect, seek to understand. Pause, listen, and walk a mile in their shoes. I was so grateful that someone wrote me last week and said, "Why aren't you doing this?" I loved it. It's like, from their point of view, there was this available and I wasn't doing it. And I love it that instead of making something up, they just emailed me and said, "Why is this why are you doing this?" And I emailed back and said, "I'm doing it because of this, 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 and this." And she says, "Oh yeah, I like what you're doing." It was because it was explained. But a lot of times we don't see it all. And so we assume, which is, I have to tell you, the mind does that. Don't make yourself wrong when you do that. How many of you have ever leaped to a conclusion that wasn't correct? I should see hands. Now, we leap to conclusions that aren't correct because we only have this little piece of information, and our mind wants to know everything, so we just make it up. She made up I didn't like somebody. Or wasn't approved, we make stuff up. But we seek to understand. When we seek to understand, then we go to the person, we say, "This is what I see, tell me more. I'd love to know more. I want to understand what you're," because I know you have good intentions. So I have this great story I want to share with you. This is when I pointed to Stephanie Ann, by the way, because it was a musician. It's the story of a musician. I got to use my words. By the way, I'm learning and accepting that I mumble. The way I know that is because I do those thoughts for the evening, the thoughts to sleep on, and I listen back before I send it off, and I go, "Wow, that I can't even understand me." So it takes me sometimes 5 times to pronunciate. So I'm trying harder. So I will say musicians. This is a story of a musician who's more than a musician. It's more than about being a musician. This is about Daryl Davis. Who's heard of Daryl Davis? Now we have 4. Thank you. Daryl Davis was once an aspiring and successful musician. He played with Chuck Berry, B.B. King, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Muddy Waters. However, his true claim to fame, the legacy he has forged, came in a very different way. He went out of his way to befriend the KKK Grand Wizard, Roger Kelly. He spent years building trust between them and laying the foundation of what would become a friendship. They broke bread in each other's tables. at each other's tables. They welcomed each other into their homes. Davis went as far as to attend Klan rallies as the guest of Kelly. Most importantly, Davis cultivated an atmosphere of listening. He didn't hate Kelly because Kelly hated him. See, here's the deal. That guy could have just said, "He hates me. I'm going to stay away from him. He hates me. Obviously, he doesn't know me. He's wrong." No, he said, "That guy hates me. He doesn't know me. He should know me. He should know me." Whoa. My hero. Instead, he listened to Roger Kelly. Eventually, Kelly started listening to him. This led to the two realizing that they had far more in common than they didn't. In the end, Kelly denounced his ties to the KKK, so much so that he handed his hood and robe to Daryl Davis. In total, Davis has seen over 200 Klan members walk away from the Klan and renounce racism. You know, hate didn't fuel this. Love did. He was so filled with love, he could walk towards someone that he knew hated him, and he didn't let hate deter him. That's the power of love. And he sought to understand, why would you hate me? I'm a good guy. I'm making this part up. It's not in the story. But I sometimes, a long time ago, I put something on Facebook that, what would I want to say, if I was dying, if I had 6 months. I thought, one of the things I want to say is, like, why didn't you like me? But I was coming from 5 years ago, because see, we're always changing. Who I was, I'm not. Who I am, I won't be. I will be something else, because the I am. Is finding greater space in this personality called Kathianne Lewis. But 5 years ago when I wrote that, and I was more like, yeah. Now it's like, obviously you don't know me. Let's get to know each other. Why? Let's get to know each other. The next is, after we seek to understand, we seek to affirm. We affirm not behavior, but we affirm that people are evolving beyond that behavior. For instance, how many of you just know that littering's wrong? To me, littering it's ugly, it creates an eyesore, and it's selfish on the part of the person littering, and it's also lazy. Instead of walking around and finding a garbage can, people are just taking the lazy way out. Now, I could put my attention on that and make it wronger and wronger and wronger, and that's probably not good grammar, but forgive me, because that's the least of my faults. But instead, I choose to affirm that people are waking up to their capability of living and sustaining in beauty, and that they want to maintain that beauty for everybody. I see the issue, and I affirm that we're moving on beyond that. I also see that there are sometimes political leaders and groups who try to expand their territory to the detriment of other countries and the people who live there. You know what that's called? It's called empire building, and it's old school, and we've outgrown that. That was the way for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. The Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, the Muslim Empire, the Prussian Empire, the Mughal Empire, it's like, if we can take it, it's ours. Like, that is so old school. You and I know that. More people know that, and it is dying. That's why we're so appalled at what we see. So instead of saying this is so wrong, instead, I am affirming that we as human beings are seeking and demanding that governments acknowledge the rights of all humans. And then I'm going to not stop there, because I'm going to get on an edge, and that we start acknowledging the rights of every living being, including the planet itself. That we're really waking up to that all life is sacred. And that government's job should be about protecting those rights. I'm affirming that. I also need to I also want to say that sometimes we're doing all this stuff out there. I could see the litterer and not see the litter in my own consciousness. How many of you, that's realize that that was the parable about the plank in your own eye. You see the splinter in your neighbor, but there's a plank in your own. Sometimes I think we want to fix this stuff out there because we're not willing to fix this stuff in here. So if we started with ourselves, we start to ask ourselves, what behavior within me do I hate? What thing have I done that I'm not pleased with? How many of you have a thing that you're not pleased with? Thank you. I love second service. You're all so healed. Because truth heals. First service, I asked that very same question, and I think maybe 25% raised their hands. And now they're either angels that just have a human body and came to first service, or they think it's a trap, like we're videoing this. We'll play it back later. No, we've all done stuff. Sometimes when I'm driving, I will think of something that I did in my past, and I'll go, ooh, ee. Why? Oh. It's like a soul burp. It's like it just comes out and it's like, ick. I think that's why people are afraid to go to long meditation retreats when it's just you and you. Because stuff will come up. But here's the deal. It came up to be released. So now when I see those things within myself, I affirm, I am so grateful I have grown out of that. I am so grateful I've grown beyond that. I'm not denying that it happened. I'm affirming that I've grown beyond it, and I will continue to grow beyond the limitations that I have now. I will continue to grow beyond my limitations. I think in society, we can see that our collective human history has not been pretty. Our collective human history has not been pretty. And we can choose to hate it or realize that we see it and we can affirm that as a society we are growing out of that pattern. We're growing out of that pattern. We're part of this shift of consciousness, but we're waking up, and the ones that wake up first get to see things we are not pleasant sometimes. But we're waking up. And sometimes, no, it's not hard for me. It's not hard for me. I am being worked by God. It's not hard for me to affirm that I'm growing out of those patterns and that society is growing out of those patterns because I see us growing out of those patterns. What was once not talked about is talked about. What was once hidden is being revealed. That's in the Bible, by the way. What was once put up with is like, no more. But it's one thing to see it, and it's another thing to be part of the movement of evolution where we declare that we are being lifted out of that behavior, individually or collectively. Now, you might say, well, I'll wait until this happens. No, this will happen when this happens, when there's a groundswell of the affirmation of how it shall be. Then things shift. There's a story in the Bible. In fact, it's a whole book. It's the book of Esther. And once again, bad things were happening to the Jewish people. And Esther was Jewish, but she was also the queen. But she needed to go talk to the king, but you can't just go talk to the king. I guess not even the wife. Now that's wild in my mind. But she was told by her uncle, perhaps you were born for such a time as this. And I think about that. Perhaps we are awake for such a time as this. Perhaps we know how prayer works for such a time as this. Perhaps we know that love is a power for such a time as this. Perhaps we know that God and I and God and you are a majority for such a time as this. And that we allow that love to speak through us, listen through us, understand through us, and move through us for such a time as this. That's for such a time as this. So let's pray. And so I give thanks that the Spirit, the presence, and the love of God moving through us opens us up to our own capability, not as personalities, not based on our history or our past, but from that I am. More than we have been, I am. More than we ever will be, I am. And from that I am place, we allow ourselves to affirm that we will seek to connect person to person, not stereotype to stereotype. And we will seek to understand, not make stuff up. And we will seek to affirm that the I am of me is the same I am of all of creation. And that God is drawing itself to itself. And that I shall believe in that power. I shall believe in that power. And I will be used by that power for purposes greater than myself. And if this can be your prayer, if this resonates with you, simply within your heart of hearts, say yes. And together let us say, and so it is.